Hello and welcome to Hawkeye Nation. This is HawkCast, your Iowa football, basketball, and recruiting podcast brought to you by Hawkeye Beacon and Rivals.com. I'm your lead analyst and host, Eliot Clough, at Eliot Clough on Twitter, joined as always by managing editor Ross Binder. Before we get started, make sure that you subscribe here on YouTube, drop a like, drop a comment, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. as well. So, back from Texas myself into the frigid Iowa temperatures just for another loss last night for the men. Close one, definitely entertaining, and we'll get to that. But today on HawkCast, we're going to start off talking about women's hoops. Came up just short while I was in Texas, so I didn't really get to watch a ton of that game. Same thing for Maryland, but that's another topic for the Iowa men. Um, didn't get to watch a ton of that game, but it's an OT, a game that you force overtime when you were down big on the road to the number there. Ohio State was number 8, right, Ross?
Yeah, 8 or 9. I think it was fine. I think they were 9, and then like the new AP poll came out during the game. And they're like, oh, they're the number 8 team now.
Oh,
So,
that's
but top 10 Ohio State, no matter what.
sure.
So
There you go. Top 10 Ohio State on the road. I
yeah,
mean, after they won, was it five straight, six straight prior to this game? I think it was six.
6. Yep. Yeah,
Six straight.
They lost 5, and then they had the 6-game winning streak.
Right.
Right, and then they just lost an OT on Monday.
So, like, 6 game win streak or not, you have to be impressed with that level of effort. And I mean, I feel like I think I said this fairly recently, but this is just a completely different women's team to me than there was, a month ago, right? Like they might tell you, "Oh, our confidence wasn't shaken. Oh, we were the same team over that stretch where we lost 5 games in a row, but then they beat the number 4 team in the country in USC." And it's like their confidence went from this is the baseline to now this is the baseline, if you will. And I mean, Lucy Olsen looks exactly like what she was brought in to be. Sita Folter has returned from that injury, and it looks to be 100% now. I mean, there are clearly deficiencies with this team still. They're never going to be those Caitlin Clark teams, right? They're just not. But I think this is the version that folks maybe, I don't know if expected is the right word, but had hoped that they'd see from the women's team this year. Of course, you don't want those 5 losses, 5 straight losses, but the 6 in a row, not that it makes up for it either, but this is indicative of what this team can be when things are clicking on all cylinders. And I think Jan Jensen's finally, she's got her feet wet as a head coach, and she's more confident in her rotations and how things are being, personnel stuff, how she's adjusting with each different, player and how much they play and all that. So, I mean, do you think I'm right there, Ross? I mean, what's your assessment of the change for the women over these last few weeks?
Yeah, no, I think you're definitely right. I think a lot of it, and sorry, apologies for my voice, everybody. I'm dealing with some awful cold, so I sound terrible, I'm sure. But yeah, as far as the women go, like I think it's a lot of it is the confidence of seeing baskets going in, especially for Lucy Olsen. During that 5-game losing streak, she was really struggling. She just could not make a shot, just couldn't get anything to go in. Free throws, even. And she's a good free throw shooter, and I'm sure she'd be the first to remember some costly misses she had. And so, that all started to turn with that Washington game out there in Seattle. That was the start of the 6-game winning streak, and they started making shots, and I think that really buoyed the confidence, and especially Lucy because she's been fantastic during that 6-game winning streak, and she was outstanding in that Ohio State game too. I mean, in the last minute of the game, she made 3 3-pointers, just an incredible comeback to get that game, and made 2 free throws right at the end of the game that sent it into overtime. So like she had, what is that? I guess 11 points in like the final minute of the game, basically. It's like ridiculous. And yeah, she's just playing at a really high level, and definitely the level that I think folks were expecting to see, when Iowa had sworn brought her in the offseason. She was a big ticket pickup. And yeah, this is why you went out and get her, and why you splash that NIL money because this is the delivery on that investment.
You know, Ross, what I'm kind of curious about. This is completely conjecture. Obviously, I can't read minds, but what I'm kind of curious about, and again, this isn't my beat. You know, I don't know Lucy all that well, but I'm wondering if maybe on top of like building chemistry, right? And getting an understanding of what your teammates want, what they need, what your role is throughout the season. Because you can have all the reps in the summer you want. There's nothing like game reps. There's nothing like time on the court against another team. So that's obviously part of it for Lucy. But secondarily, I'm curious because I mean, we even talked about this when Lucy committed, is that can she play that, quasi Caitlin Clark role? No, again, we're talking about the GOAT here. Like Lucy's not gonna be the expect like if there was any expectations for anybody, that's just not fair. Um, but I'm wondering if she felt some sort of pressure externally, obviously not internally from the roster, from her teammates, from the staff. They wanted her to be Lucy. I'm sure of it, just based on what I know about Jan and the rest of the staff, Raina. But what I'm curious about is if she felt some sort of external pressure to be something that she wasn't, maybe forcing shots for that reason, and now she's settled in and is just being herself. That's again completely conjecture. I mean, I just came up with that on the spot too. Clearly not in our outline as you see on the on your screen there. But I I wonder if that's the case because she just again looks completely different in her ability to make shots, her confidence. Um, so maybe
I
that's a
think,
possibility.
yeah, I mean, I think even if it's not a conscious thing, it could easily be
Yeah.
like a subconscious thing where, I mean, like she knows she is, literally replacing Caitlin Clark. No, I mean, nobody can do that. But, she is the big addition. Iowa guy. She plays the same position that Clark did. So, like, the comparisons are always going to be there, and there is, something to it. But I think you're right. She needed to kind of be herself and not, she can't be the next, a Caitlin Clark duplicate. Although she did a pretty good impression of her at the end of that Ohio State game with those 3-pointers. I mean, Lucy's not the 3-point shooter that Caitlin was, but she has her moments, and she was definitely in the zone at the end of that game. But yeah, I think overall during that winning streak and during that game, like she has looked more comfortable, and she's played to her strengths, which is that mid range game and is attacking the basket and cutting and driving, and when she does more of that and plays to her strengths, she definitely obviously plays better, plays more comfortably, and the knock-on effect for the whole Iowa team has been, just really improved all across the board.
As far as like supplementary roles, like Lucy and probably Hannah Stolke are, known as some of the primary scorers on this roster, right? I think I mean, and it varies per game, like who steps up, who fills that void as being like a tertiary scorer. Like looking at averages, Addie O'Grady is third in scoring at 10.8 points per game. But when you think about Addie O'Grady, she kind of is what she is, if you know what I mean. Like she's a standard starting center, not going to be high end more often than not. She played phenomenal in that USC game. That's one that sticks out in my mind. But I think you almost need more from and it's kind of weird to say this given how freaking awesome she's been, but you almost need more from an Aaliyah Guyton. You need more consistency, especially shooting the ball from Kylie Fierbach. She's only shooting 26.5% from three this year. And then
Yeah.
at the same time, Taylor McCabe, 42.4%, Sydney Fulter, 42.6%. Like it's got to be made up one way or another. You can't win with just Lucy and Hannah Stolke. You got to have that tertiary score if you're going to continue to plug away and win games and maybe make a run in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I think a Folter Sydney has kind of stepped up as a more consistent presence on offense, especially rebounding. I mean, she's been a phenomenal rebounder the last
14,
month or two.
14 against Ohio State.
Yeah, just really good instincts for rebounding. Just, just one of those players that just, knows where the ball is or where the ball's going to be, and is great at like tipping the ball to get it to herself. And but she's been a little bit more consistent on the scoring front. I do think, what you're saying though, in terms of that kind of unpredictability of the tertiary scores is for sure there. And it's something that probably does kind of put a ceiling on what this team can accomplish because you just don't really know what you're going to get game to game from O'Grady or Feuerbach or McCabe. And then the freshmen, like you said, like Guyton, like, you'd like to see a little bit more from her consistently, but it's also like this is why freshmen are freshmen, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
Guyton and Maligny and the rest, like they've had some great bright spots this year when they've seen action, but the consistency just isn't there, and you don't get consistency with freshmen more often than not. So yeah, I think Feuerbach was great in the second half of that Ohio State game. She had, I think, 10 points in the second half for 12 points. Really had made some big buckets, made some big threes, but like you said, has not been a consistent strength for her this year. Would you say 26%? So, one in four is not ideal. McCabe too. She's a streak shooter, which is kind of what she's been for pretty much her whole Iowa career. Is when she's on a heater, she's great. She can make three, four, five threes in a game and really elevates you. But there's going to be games where she just isn't hitting either, and that's going to make things a lot tougher.
I can't be the only one who wants to see a little bit more of Ava Hayden either, right?
Yeah, I think that's been a common refrain, and it's understandable because she is really skilled and is kind of a different player that I mean, she's a big that she's a little bit more athletic than what Andy O'Grady offers. Has more size than Hannah Stuelke. So there's just something that she provides the roster that isn't available from another player. I think what's happened though is during this winning streak, Iowa really went to more of a one big lineup. Where either they're playing Stuelke or when Stuelke's not playing, they're playing O'Grady. And when you do that, they're just it's tough to find minutes for Hayden, but I agree with you. I think she is a really uh, interesting and has some really great skills that aren't duplicated by other players.
And then the other thing I was gonna say is Tegan Mullaney and Taylor Stremel kind of being those gadget players like in the front court and the back court. I mean, and you just see these flashes where it's like, whoa, that would and it's tough. I mean, you said it, Russ. They're freshmen, right? If and we've seen it before just in sports in general where maybe something clicks late in the season, in a season, maybe not the freshman season, but in a season and things turn. And who's to say that doesn't happen the rest of the way for a freshman or these freshmen? I would put my money on Aaliyah Guyton. Yeah, again, this isn't my beat. Like I don't watch every minute of every game, but I just love what she does on the court, man. And like when she like the ball denial against Juju Watkins, willing to play defense against her in that game, I left so impressed with her. And if she can continue to do that and be a leader at the same time as you're in your first semester, or I guess now second semester, but second semester of college, I'm just kind of floored with what she's been able to do. And coming off an ACL tear, she didn't even play a good contingent of her senior year.
Yeah, I mean, she's really made a really strong impact as a freshman, and like you said, just especially that the defense she's provided, the outside scoring threat, just and another ball handler like Iowa. Early in the season before Guyton got cleared, like the ball handling was a real concern because you can't have the ball in Olsen's hands, 40 minutes, and the other options were not ideal. So just having her available to spell Olsen and to take some of that pressure off her has been huge.
Now they take on UCLA on Sunday in Carver Hawkeye Arena. Carver's gonna be rocking on Sunday.
Yep.
And now, lucky for Iowa, they are not well. Let's say this: UCLA just lost its first game of the season to USC. Um, just recently, this most what was it? February 13th. Yeah, this last week or a week ago from today, and I think Iowa is lucky that that didn't happen right before they made the trip to Iowa City because
You never want to play a really, really good team right after a loss, you know?
no. They proceeded to play Michigan State at home and beat them by 16, who was the number 22 team in the country. Next, they play Illinois at home tonight, and then they're coming to Iowa. Um, and that game is at 1 p.m. on Sunday. They put that on Peacock. Come on, man. Come on.
Trying to drive people to subscribe, but that's a bummer because that's a huge game, and it would be nice to get a big audience for that game.
Right, right. Now, I'm looking at the box score from that last win against UCL or against Michigan State, and I wanted to make sure because I thought I had heard something about Lauren Betts being out. She did not play against Michigan State. Are you familiar with what's going on there?
I know she has an injury. I'm not sure exactly what, but yeah, she has been a little limited. Did not play against Sparty, like you said, and they still won. Still beat them by 6. So
Right.
yeah, I'm not sure what her availability is for the Iowa game.
Looking like she might not play against Illinois tonight, but based on that read of it, I'd imagine that it's like maybe against Illinois, and then you hope she's back for Iowa if you're UCLA. So either way, going to be a really big game. This would be a one where I would personally expect Ava Hyden to play more minutes just for the sake of throwing bodies at Lauren Betts, if that's the case.
Absolutely. I was going to need, between Stolke, O'Grady, and Hayden, there's 15 fouls right there. Uh, they're probably going to need quite a few of those against Lauren Betts if she's healthy and full go in that game, I would think.
Yeah, throw in a Kylie Feuerbach foul or two, and you should be in decent shape to throw her off her spot. At least you hope so, right?
Yeah,
So as much as you can do with a player that size and that's that good. So again, that one is on Sunday at 1 p.m. on Peacock. If you have tickets to that one, I am jealous. Not covering that one, of course, as Adam and Braden will have that handled for us, but that'll be a really fun game. Another opportunity for a top five team upset for the Hawkeyes. If they do that, whew, because the fans weren't able to storm the court against USC because of the
right.
Caitlin Clark
Caitlin
jersey
retiring.
retirement.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
the fans are going to be extra antsy to get on the court if they can make it happen. But
Absolutely.
and yeah, another big one. Hawkeyes see what they can do on Sunday against UCLA. But let's move on to the men quick. 80 to 78 loss to Oregon last night, as I mentioned. Got back from Texas at 2 a.m. on Wednesday morning and then had to go. And, it'd be different if it was another 22-point loss, where I'd be like, ugh. But 2-point loss, close game. It was competitive for basically all of it. There was a point where I think Oregon's lead got up to 10 or 11, but Iowa was within arm's reach for a good chunk of that game. And to me, I think what can't be
I think
swept.
that run, sorry, I was just gonna say that run Iowa had out at halftime was really
Yeah,
big
yeah,
because I think what was lead was like 8 at halftime, I think.
yeah. They went on a
And
12-4 run to start second half.
yeah, and tied it up. And yeah, if Oregon starts off big in the second half, I think there's real potential for that game to go as sideways maybe as the Maryland game did.
Right.
Just where it just the snowball starts rolling downhill, and it's like
And if
I
I'm being
mean,
honest, that's what I thought was going to happen.
yeah, I mean we've seen that script play out a lot this season, so it's not like you don't have to project too much to imagine that happening.
No.
So sorry.
And I mean,
Well,
we've seen good first halves turn into blowouts and bad first halves turn into worse blowouts than they were
right,
first half. So,
right.
uh, a lot of that this season. And I think, I mean, when it comes down to a 2-point game, there are so many things that could have changed it, right? There's the T on Payton. They only made one free throw, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. There's a couple shots where Price is wide open in the corner, and probably 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, he buries it and he misses it. Yeah, I think they missed 4 free throws. I don't have, I have the box score. Never mind. I'm gonna pull that up. Um, they were, yeah, 13 of 17 from the free throw line, 9 of 22 from three, which is 41%. That's a good percentage. You make one more, you potentially win the game, right?
Better free throw shooting than they've had for a lot of games this
Oh
season.
yeah. Oh yeah. Um,
And then, I mean, there were missed layups by Peyton and Dix at the last minute of that game, right? I mean, they each
last
had
last 40 seconds.
40
Yeah.
seconds. Yeah, I mean, they each had great looks at the basket and just missed somehow.
Yeah, in and out, in and out. Both Josh Dix and Peyton Sandfort. Like, if there are two guys on this roster that you're like, oh,
Yeah,
it's a bunny. That and I thought the play that got drawn up by Fran for Josh's final look at three or a midi or whatever it was a three. He dribbled left, took a step back to try to create separation against a 7-footer, and the ball got tipped. There's only so much you can do. And Josh has kind of a forward release a little bit. So that didn't help him. But
doesn't always get a lot of high arc
right.
shots.
And
So
Biddle, credit to Biddle, man. I mean, it's a 7-footer, right? Like he played that really well. Switched and got up in Josh's face.
yeah, I was impressed by Biddle a lot in that game
He's good.
yesterday. Like he really knows how to use. Like you see some 7 foot guys that aren't real comfortable with their body and what to do on the basketball court. That's not him. Like he really knows. He used his length very effectively, especially on defense. And in the first half, like he was destroying Iowa in the paint. It was just like a parade of like bunnies and layups for him, pretty much.
He had 21 on 8 of 13 shooting with 10 rebounds and 3 blocks. None more important than that last one.
I
On
thought he was going to have 30 after the first half. Like
He's good.
Oregon got really 3 point happy, it felt like in the second half, which was good for Iowa because they were not shooting threes well.
Right, but they were wide open on so many three, and like to
Yeah.
to say that
They were
however
they
many,
were good looks. So
yeah,
yeah,
to say that however many things didn't go Iowa's way. I mean, Oregon makes 3 or 4 of those wide open threes, and they
it's
walk out
not
of the gym
yeah,
with them. Yeah,
yeah,
easy win.
all that stuff at the end of the game doesn't matter because they're up 10 instead.
Right, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, they gave Iowa chance after chance, and Iowa just didn't capitalize.
The other thing about Biddle I was going to say is that, obviously I think Iowa has missed Owen Freeman enormously in every game since he's been out, but you really felt his absence, I thought, in a game like that where you just don't have that defensive big post presence to try and, counter or slow down a talented big like that. Like Iowa just doesn't have anybody on the roster healthy right now that can do something against that.
I think Riley was probably he's coming off the flu, so I imagine he wasn't quite ready to go. So that's why he was on the bench, but he didn't play at all last
He didn't
night.
play at all last night. Yeah.
No. I loved Chris Tajo's minutes. I thought the foul calls were a little questionable. He only played 2 minutes, so both of those minutes from Chris Tajo I liked. Um, and I think it would have been positive to have Riley out there just for the sake of size. Additionally, Evan Bronze was just heroic last night. That is the best game he has played as a Hawkeye by far.
Miles. Yeah, by
By
miles.
far. I put it in the story last night. I think this is the most points he's scored since he had 18 for Belmont in 2022.
Oh
Um,
wow.
February 4th, 2022. He had 18 for them. Last night he had 15. 7 of 9 from the free throw line, which is excellent for a big man. Um,
Absolutely.
Just 3 rebounds, which you don't love. 2 blocks though. He's got some pretty solid timing, and his athleticism really helps him out with those swats. Uh, but at the same time, talking about rebounds, talking about defense, that's again where Iowa struggled. That's where they couldn't make up for a ball that didn't, fall their way or whatever on a rebound. Um, and it's just the same thing over and over and over again. I had the headline ducked in my head before the game even started, so I was like, I'm rolling with this. But something that I've continually thought about using is same stuff, different day, because that's what it is with this Iowa
Yeah.
team. Whether it's this close, whether it's a blowout, um, and I do think I'm going to sound like a homer, but I do think it is notable that this team has not fully given up, so to speak. I mean, if they had given up, this wouldn't have been a 2-point game. Oregon would have run them out of the gym. I think what can't be swept under the rug in all this, in what's been a very disappointing season for nobody else more than Payton Sandfort.
Yeah. This is not remotely what he envisioned when he came back for his senior
I don't think it's
year.
what any of us envisioned.
No, absolutely
This is
not.
what this is not what this team is capable of.
No.
Um, but all of that said, I don't think we can sweep under the rug what Josh Dix and Peyton Sandfort have done this season, especially with Owen out. They are just carrying the load night after night. I don't know how many games Josh Dix has played 40 minutes, but it's more than a lot of other guys. Peyton Sandfort 35 minutes last night. I mean, Peyton looked like prime Peyton to me. That is the probably, if not the best, one of the best games that he's had this season. He looked like a healthy Peyton Sandfort that's going to be a knockdown shooter. I tweeted that it's like prime Peyton is what we got last night. 25 points, 3 of 4 from the free throw line, 4 of 7 from deep, 9 of 16 from the field, and
Five
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 assists.
boards, five
But yeah,
assists.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
that was definitely one of his best games of the year. He was really in the zone and just playing really well. And Dix, had a great game, really bounced back. He had a terrible game against Maryland. Just
His
really forgettable.
his ability to move and maneuver the court and find a way to score is almost unmatched in the Big Ten. Like his efficiency is unreal. It's just really disappointing to have a guy that is that good and a guy like Peyton who is that good and that invested to see them routinely lose games and not even just blowouts but games like this. Like even when it's this close, Peyton after the final play last night just sat on the floor for a little while. I didn't know if he was hurt, but all the guys ran over to him and tried to help him out. I just like it's the human aspect of this, right? Like Peyton's a great dude, Price is a great dude. I don't know Josh as well as I know like Price or like Evan Bronze is a phenomenal guy. Um, but it's you you want to cover a team that wins in this industry. It's more fun. You get more clicks, like
Absolutely.
all that good
Absolutely.
stuff.
Yeah.
So there is a certain level of bias to that degree, but just from a human level, it's and having been a competitor, it's just tough to watch, man. And to have the fan base more or less checked out, like it's tough.
Yeah. What was the attendance like last night?
Probably 6.5, 7,000. It was the loudest it's been for the men, other than the Iowa State game by far. Um, which is saying something because there were a lot of empty seats, a lot. If I had to guess, it's not going to get much better than that. Maybe against Michigan State, but I don't see it materializing to be much better than that the rest of the way.
No, I don't think that's likely. I mean, this season, I think obviously, like you said, the fans have largely checked out on the season, for understandable reasons. This is the 14-12 team. They are not playing in March, anywhere, it looks like right now. And right now, I mean, they are touch and go to make the Big Ten tournament right now because the new format for that tournament, since they added the four West Coast teams, is now only the top 15 in the standings go to Indianapolis. And right now, Iowa is what are they?
They're
15th.
15th.
Yeah,
Yep. And they play Washington, who is 17th on Saturday, Northwestern, who is 16th in the coming weeks. Pull it up here. They play them on the 28th. So in
yeah,
just a week.
those are big games. Iowa probably needs to win both of those to ensure that they uh, are going to Indianapolis. If they don't win those, because their other games are Sparty, Michigan State, and Illinois, and then they wrap up at Nebraska, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nebraska is 7-9 right now, so they're 10th.
yeah,
Um, and they after looking like Iowa dismantled them, they've kind of righted the ship a little bit. They're 17-10 overall, 7-9 in the Big Ten. But it's gonna be a tough road. Looking ahead, of course, there's all the talk around Fran McCaffrey right now and his future with the program. Of course, we're not gonna delve into that a ton just because we can't really. We're not gonna come out with a list of three coaches. We're just not gonna do that. Um, while he's still head coach for the Hawkeyes, so it's just what more can you do right now if you're the Hawkeyes? You just almost have to completely stick to what you've been doing, even though you're not winning games, because how else, like, what else can you do? You just have to hope the ball bounces your way, especially in a game like this against Oregon.
yeah. I mean, I think that's really what it comes down to. I think one thing that Fran has been very consistent about in his post games has been, how happy he is with, kind of the fight that they've shown and the spirit they've shown. And I think by and large, that's been true. This is not a team, like you said, they have not given up on the season, even though it's clearly not gone, the way obviously any of them wanted it to go. But they're still playing hard. Like they played hard to the final whistle last night. It just, like you said, the balls just didn't bounce their way. So, especially without Owen Freeman, the margin for this team is so thin. Like things have to go so right for them most of the time. Um,
It's
and
2023 Iowa football thin. Probably thinner
yeah,
than that. Probably thinner than that.
right. I mean, last night is like you get, what, 25 out of Payton and 20 out of Dix. Like that's
15 out
great.
of Evan Bronze.
15 out of Evan Bronze, like that's great. And you
Who Selwell didn't
still,
play well. And like, yeah.
yeah, I mean, you can't ask for that much more out of Dix and Sandfort. And that Bronze having a game like that is just a small miracle, just a wonderful little surprise,
Yeah.
really. And it's just like, man, and you still come up short in the win column. So it's tough, but I don't see this team laying down the rest of the way, especially with Payton, leading that team. He's Hawkeye career has not gone the way I'm sure he was hoping it would. Which he's not, there've been other guys like that in the past, unfortunately, but he's gonna play hard until it's done, I think. So we'll see if that results in too many more wins. But
Last question before we get out of here, Ross. Big Ten tournament in Indianapolis. Do they get in?
I think they do because I think they're gonna beat Washington on the weekend. Washington's not that good, haven't been that good on the road, and Iowa's been much better at home generally. And then, it comes down to can they steal probably that Northwestern game or that Nebraska game? And I think they can get the Northwestern game. I mean, as many injuries as Iowa has had this year, I think Northwestern's even more demolished by injuries. I mean, they lost Barnheiser,
Right.
they lost somebody else, I think. So it's like they're really, those two teams are going to be just, whoever's left basically
Right.
suiting
Yeah.
suiting up for that game. So, yeah, I think they're going to get to Indianapolis by the skin of their teeth. What about you?
if they can continue to put forth that effort, and I'm not saying that I don't think they will, but it's going to be more and more difficult as you continue to lose games to continue to put that effort forth. And I would have said the same thing a couple weeks ago, and they're still doing it. It's all contingent on that effort because if it gets to a point where, you know, and I don't see Payton doing this, I don't see Josh doing this, I don't see Evan Braun's doing this, saying or Drew Thelwell for that matter, saying, okay, checking out. I don't see that happening. Um, I think they're going to do their best to get in to the tournament. They're going to fight till the very end. And I honestly like credit to Fran because not every coach would be able to keep this group rolling. Especially, I mean, like Fran's won a lot of games at Iowa. He's the all-time winningest coach.
Yep.
I wouldn't blame him if he let the wheels, or I probably would blame him, but I would understand if the wheels fell off, right?
Right.
And they
Yeah.
kind of have, but they haven't fully, right?
Right. Yeah.
So based on that, based on what I've seen from this team, despite all the circumstances, despite losing their best player for the year, um, despite losing Cooper Koch to a fluke,
Yeah.
I will say they get in. I do think they are better. Well, I do think they're better than Washington. If they lose on Saturday, no, done. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If
I
they
agree
lose
with
Saturday, it's
that.
done. But
I think that that game Saturday is a huge one. If they can't get that one, I do not like their odds of making the Big Ten tournament whatsoever. No way.
no. We shall see how it all shakes out going forward with this men's team. Of course, the women again playing at UCLA, number three UCLA at home on Sunday, men Washington on Saturday. You can, of course, check out all the details on Iowa's websites for schedules and such. But we will wrap it up here. We appreciate you tuning into this episode of HawkCast brought to you by Iowa.rivals.com. If you're not a premium subscriber yet, do that today. Iowa.rivals.com/subscribe. Got a ton of stuff going on at all times. We're still writing, even when stuff is down in the dumps for men's basketball. We'll get stuff out on football recruiting, men's basketball recruiting, women's basketball, etc.
Right. Recruiting never sleeps. It's
No, it does
always
not. Hell no. Neither do I. So we've also got wrestling there from Ross too, who helps us out quite a bit on that front. But again, check it out there at iowa.rivals.com. If you're here on YouTube, drop a like, drop a comment, and of course hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. If you're on Apple Podcast, Spotify, do the same. Leave that rate and review. It does truly help us out a lot. We greatly appreciate you. So for now, I am Elliot Clough at Elliot Clough on Twitter, joined by Ross Binder, and we will see you next time.